All right, friends, we've learned about lines. If you remember, we learned about all different kinds of lines. Do you remember what some of their names are? A curvy line. Which one was that? Zig, zag, zig, zag. We have dashed. That's the one with the short little lines and then a space. Short line, space. Short line, space. So we've learned and practiced how to make and draw a lot of different kinds of lines. And lines are super important for making any kind of artwork that we want to make. Lines are found everywhere and in every artwork. In this project, we are going to use lines to make shapes. Shapes are another one of those great building blocks of how we can make art. We can make pictures by putting lots of different shapes together. So today we're going to talk about the different shapes a little bit, and you're going to get to practice making your own shapes. So we're going to use our crayons. We can use the same color for all of our shapes, or we can use lots of different colors. So I'm going to start with a square. So I have 4 straight lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 straight lines to make a square. Now you make your own square. What's another shape that I could make with straight lines? It's similar to a square, but it's either longer or taller. Longer. Oh, that is a rectangle. I could also make a rectangle that's taller and skinnier. So rectangles can be all different directions and different sizes. So even though these are both rectangles, they look very different. Now I think I have room for another shape that's made with straight lines. Oh, it looks like I'm going to make the letter A, but I'm not. I'm going to close that bottom, and now what shape did I make? A triangle. So I have a square, a long rectangle, a tall rectangle, and a triangle. There are also shapes that we can make that have curved lines instead of straight lines. So for a curved shape, curvy lines. Let's think. What shape might I need a curvy line to make? I have an idea. Oh, look at that. I made a what? A circle. I made a circle with a curved line, a closed curved line. If I have a circle but it's squished, that is an oval. Now I have an oval. I can make an oval that is smaller on the one side and bigger on the bottom. And that reminds me of an egg or a teardrop or a raindrop. So an oval that has a smaller side is like an egg shape. So another one, and this one can be a little bit tricky for friends when they're first trying it. So if yours doesn't turn out like mine, that's okay. If yours doesn't turn out like you wanted it to, that's okay too. We just keep practicing and trying. What I'm gonna make next is a heart. A heart has a bump, right? So a curve or bump that comes to the top. And now I'm actually going to pull my line down diagonally. So I have a bump, a diagonal line that stops when it looks like it matches up with where I started. Now I'm going to do the same thing and bring it to the other side. So I'm going to make a bump up and over and bring it down there. And now I have a heart. So these are a couple shapes that you can practice making. I didn't get to change colors as often as I wanted to, but it's okay for us to overlap shapes and keep practicing again and again and making bigger shapes and smaller shapes. So I want to practice that heart again, and I think I'm going to put it right inside another shape that I made. Oh, look at that. I have a shape inside a shape. I have a heart inside a square. Now I can make another shape around that shape. Now I have a square inside a square that has a heart inside of it. That looks pretty cool. I like how now I'm starting to have more colors. I can also take other shapes and continue doing what I was doing and putting different shapes or more of the same shape. I can just make a smaller version of that shape inside, and another one, and another one. It is okay for you to overlap your shapes. That means where one shape would go over top of another shape, but you might not like that. So that's an artist's choice that you need to make. Right now, none of my shapes are touching or overlapping. It would be okay to add shapes onto things. So these are now touching because I have a triangle attached to the side of my rectangle. Maybe if you don't like them touching, you wouldn't want to do that. And then overlapping means one shape goes right over top of another one. So there I had a triangle that was next to, connected to, and now I can have one that overlaps. It goes right over top of a different shape that I had. And I kind of like how that looks. I'm like the idea, maybe I'm going to put red triangles kind of going all over my paper. So this kind of becomes a neat thing that goes throughout my artwork. Now you're going to practice making your own shapes. I can also make a bigger shape, right? So I can make a big triangle. Oh my goodness. Wow, a really big triangle, and that has so many shapes, and it overlaps with so many of the other objects or shapes that I drew. So I'm thinking about putting things all over my paper, right? So it's really, when you look at it, it doesn't look like it's half empty or half full. It's very balanced, so it's even. There's an even amount of stuff kind of spread around. And I think I'll just go with one more color. And this is true when no matter what we're drawing with our crayons. But I want to press down on my paper pretty hard when I'm drawing the lines. We might end up painting these. If we put paint on top of them, it would be important that we pressed our crayon down pretty hard so that we could still see the crayon. It will show up through the paint. So for today, even if we're not going to paint them, we really want to be able to see your lines. So pressing hard. I didn't scribble anywhere, I don't think. I'm taking my time and thinking of all the different shapes that I know how to make and all different kinds of ways I can connect those shapes and overlap those shapes. So that's what we're going to do today. Always make sure your name is on your paper. So before we get started, before you start, take a quick name break. Remember, if we're writing our name small, it can go on the front. But sometimes it's hard to write our name small. So if you are better at writing your name big, then you would want to put it on one side and then turn your paper over and your picture would go on the other side. So we're going to take a moment, We're going to put our names on our papers right now. And once you have your name on it, you can start creating any shape that I made, a different shape that you might have in mind, or you can even make up your own shapes.